Ladies and gentlemen, there's lots of reasons for why we're here tonight. And we're about ready to learn one of them. The main one. Karl and Cindy met in October of 2006 as part of a Wednesday through Sunday conference called Skills USA. They didn't get to know each other until Saturday night at the dance. Walking Cindy back to her room that night, Joe Cox, right here in front of you, told Karl, "You can leave, or you can go home with a story." We now have that story, Joe. Karl and Cindy really have Joe to thank for putting them together. The first time Cindy remembers seeing Karl was when everyone was saying their name and something that they liked that started with the first letter of their name. Cindy said, "I'm Cindy, I like cake." Obviously, we saw that. When it came Karl's turn, Karl said, "I'm Karl, and I like keys." Cindy thought, what a dork. What kind of person likes keys? Instead of saying they like kisses. The first time that Karl and Cindy actually talked was at the Saturday night dance. And after the dance, they talked a little bit more. Karl and Cindy sat by each other, and they just clicked. After the conference, they started talking on the phone. 10 to 15-minute conversations turned into hour-long conversations. After a while, Cindy knew she could trust Karl. She could tell he was a very respectful person and that he cared for everyone that was in his life and those people all around him. Cindy was just wishing they were closer. Karl was in Sheldon, Nebraska. Cindy was in Torrington, Wyoming. Shortly after Valentine's Day in 2007, Karl was set to leave on Friday for Torrington to see Cindy. Well, she called that Thursday night and ended up breaking up with Karl. He was devastated. About a week later, Karl became pretty sick. After numerous trips to the doctor, many tests, X-rays, ultrasounds, CAT scans, even a colonoscopy. Yeah, there is a joke there. Nobody was able to figure out what was wrong. And then Cindy started to call again. And a week or two later, Karl was perfectly fine. Cindy blames it on a broken heart. There wasn't one moment, it was just a whole bunch of little things that made Cindy fall for Karl. For example, Karl used Facebook to get Cindy's address from Laura. So he sent mini roses and a teddy bear. And to this day, Karl continues to surprise Cindy with something when she least expects it. Remember? Call it in the air. Cindy first told Karl that she loved him in a text message. She didn't know what made her do it, but she just did. And Karl sent one back saying he loved her too. But Karl had to call Cindy to ask her about that text. With some of her friends, they've been sending some pretty interesting things on her phone. So Karl claims he's the first to say I love you by voice. But Cindy was the first one to actually say it. Cindy realized she couldn't be without him. Karl came to Cindy's graduation in May of '08, and then he got to meet her parents and some of Cindy's dad's side of the family. My parents didn't know about Karl for a long time. It was just a couple of days before he was coming out that she ended up telling her mom. But she didn't tell her dad. So it was a little bit of a surprise for him. Following the graduation, Cindy moved out to Iowa to be with Karl. And that's when Karl realized Cindy was the one. When she made that move out to Iowa, she left everything. Her family, her friends, everything she knew to be with Karl. Now, Karl wasn't happy with the hours he was getting at work, and thinking he was a little bit capable of more, school became another option. Iowa State University would still be pretty far from Cindy's folks, So they made the trip back to Nebraska, where Karl ended up seeing a magnet on Cindy's parents' fridge with a South Dakota School of Mines and Technology magnet sticker on it. Now, getting into tech proved to be just a little more difficult. Karl couldn't claim Cindy as a dependent. The School of Mines saw Cindy as a domestic partner. A domestic partner wasn't going to get the financial aid needed to get back into school and get them out of Iowa and ultimately closer to Cindy's friends and family and all of you. Cindy and Karl went to the Justice of the Peace on November 18, 2008. Lisa and Kevin, Karl's folks, and his brother Kyle, along with a good friend from high school, brought one of her friends from college. They surprised Karl when they showed up, but it was great to have them there. They brought Cindy something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. Now, remember, Karl's already mentioned that Cindy is somewhat notorious for forgetting to tell her friends and folks about important things. The following weekend, they're out in Nebraska. Cindy's dad, Melvin, goes, so how's that school application going? That's when Cindy told him. But for coming out of the blue, in Karl's words, Mr. and Mrs. Barth did very well. Let's face it, Melvin could have killed Karl, but he's here today. So on behalf of all of us, thank you, Melvin and Kathleen. Karl and Cindy have been told they go great together. Laura's even been noted as saying they are grossly in love. It was Karl that chose today's date, June 27. It's exactly 2 months and a day right between their birthdays. Torrington, Wyoming, Nebraska, Iowa, who can say that long-distance relationships don't work? Look who's sitting right here in front of you. They are proof that they do. Karl and Cindy met at a dance 2.5 years ago. And now it's time for all of you to enjoy dancing as husband and wife. Ladies and gentlemen, Karl and Cindy Gavers.